So a lot of us are wondering, where in the world is the free DLC, the big expansions for Cyberpunk 2077? So we have a mix of news today. We have leaks and rumors and official news from the lead quest designer himself, who talks about the upcoming DLC and what is going on there. Plus, he talks about things they are currently working on with updates, patches, and so on and so forth. So yes, let's dive into this right now. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good. And once again, we are talking about Cyberpunk 2077. So first of all, there was a recent leak that happened by Prickly Assassin. You may remember him. He's the infamous leaker that has leaked a bunch of other Cyberpunk 2077 details, which did end up for the most part becoming true. But he goes on to say this right here: bad news about upcoming content. And it says, preface, this information may change before official release, and then this is for the mod. So let's scroll down. It says add-ons removed from the Epic Games Store. It says this means the DLCs and expansions, all the data related to them have been completely removed, and the add-ons tab has been set to inactive. This could mean two things: that there's been a change of plans, or some of the content has been crammed into a content update. Unlikely. It's known for a fact that there will be free DLCs and paid expansions, but there's no more information of what might be coming in the future. And then we're going to talk about this 38 gigabyte update here. But if we go to Powell Sasko, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, who is the lead quest designer for Cyberpunk 2077. He's been streaming the game quite a bit, and I've actually tuned into these streams and broke it down for you all to see what he has had to say about Cyberpunk 2077 officially, and we're going to go beyond the rumors and leaks right now. So he goes on to talk about what is going on with the free DLC and the size of the DLC and things like that. So they are aware, of course, that we are all waiting for DLC, and if it was up to him, he would be getting we would be getting that DLC, excuse me, way earlier. But the DLC is definitely on its way, which is of course countering this leak about the bad news about upcoming content. So they're definitely working on DLC. It's on its way, but they want to make sure the core game currently works exceptionally well, and they are balancing between patches and of course releasing this upcoming DLC. Now he warns he isn't going to be talking too much about the DLC specifics because they don't want to also overhype it. It sounds like they've learned their lesson in regards to actually marketing Cyberpunk. And again, you know, CD Projekt Red previously has said that they are going to be changing up how they market things in the future. So they're going to be more cautious about how they talk about upcoming projects and the future of things for sure. Now it says this, the question was asked out on stream. It says, where is the branching story and multiple choices? Now he goes on to say that the choices and consequences in the game are actually far more various than people actually realize, and there's more variety in CD Projekt's Cyberpunk 2077 than The Witcher 3. Now, hold up here. I know a lot of us are probably scratching our heads about that one. They say this: the consequences are way less telegraphed to players in Cyberpunk compared to The Witcher 3. And they say in the expansions or DLC, they actually hope to take this lesson and improve upon this to really let you know what the consequences are to your actions. But it's interesting that he goes on to say that there's way more variety in choices and actual more choices in Cyberpunk than The Witcher 3. Let me know if you agree with that or not. Now, the next question that was asked out on stream was, where's the AI regarding walking and driving and police? And this is something that they will be improving in future updates. They have already, offered some improvements through previous updates, but they plan to keep improving this going forward. Now, he also talked about lessons that they've actually learned. This is interesting. They said they learned that the tool set they had for The Witcher 3 didn't entirely work for what they created for Cyberpunk 2077, and it's something that they're currently learning from. And, perhaps, and this is just me speculating, they could be building new tool sets for Cyberpunk in the future. Now, they also did mention it was a big mistake to not allow players to reject phone calls, and it's something they will be addressing in the future as well. So a lot of stuff that they are currently working on, and again, this is countering what was said here in the actual leak about add-ons being completely removed. That could just be that the names are inaccurate for the Epic Games Store add-ons. That's just old information and it's out of date, but things are being worked on for Cyberpunk 2077, according to the actual devs. Now, let's keep going on with what the leaker has to say about this upcoming 38 gigabyte update. It says there's a new update in the works that will hopefully fix some bugs and issues with the game. The update size is roughly 38 gigabytes, and it will likely release within 2 to 3 weeks. This update has also been uploaded to GOG and Steam for quality assurance testing. This update is big, but I doubt it will add anything new to the game. Again, that's unconfirmed. We'll see what happens with that. It's likely going to be something that addresses some of the issues that Powell Sasko has been talking about on stream as well. Now, there's also going to be apparently a forced update download. It says people that purchase Cyberpunk from Epic Games will be forced to update their game to the latest version before playing, even in offline mode. This is likely because one of the patches or hotfixes included the required code to enable expansions and DLC functions. Data mining the game files, there's no DLC or expansion management system in the game as of now, so this upcoming update might add that. So that could explain also what's going on with the actual removal of the add-ons titles. Yeah, so the Epic Games Store has the titles that you could actually see previously for all the add-ons and things like that. And again, that has been apparently removed from the Epic Games Store listing. All right, so let's keep going. Now, this is really interesting right here. I showcased this previously, but we have some new insight into the early concept layout of Night City's map versus the final version. Of course, you can see the concept right here. It's really interesting because there was this like island right here, which could have been actually heading something like a rocket that heads to space. But also, then we have the new version right here, no island. Let's see what you guys had to say about this one. Some really good insight and takeaways from what has happened with the development. And you can also see some leftovers in the city from the previous concept map. So Danger says, aha, so this explains the whacked out metro maps that you can find in InCart. If you ever checked out the InCart station maps, you'll notice they look very weird and do not match current Night City at all. They appear to be using the original map layout where City Center is southeast of Watson instead of south. I more or less figured that was the case, but this is good confirmation, excuse me, nevertheless. Now, Chuckleberry says this, the new iteration of the map indicates a change in direction that likely had involvement from a civil engineer. The formation of the waterway in the old map is more likely akin to a design used for a fishing marine port rather than a dense city that would house container shipments with large zone bays for fleets of vehicles, processing hubs used for logistics. The new map is much more accurate in depicting an industrial metropolitan city. Excuse me, can't even speak. It says the scale of the map is still too small, but the difference is not that much greater than, say, GTA 5. The difference, however, is that in Cyberpunk 2077, the Badlands are mostly desolate, and you can't scale mountains, cliffs, which create the perception that we are playing in a restricted cutoff area, which is true, but the feeling is magnified, whereas if we could scale these restricted areas and the Badlands was more built up with the presence of communities of people, then I think this would lessen the overall feeling that the map is small. I love this feedback right here. I really hope CD Projekt Red is listening because, man, that is so true. Everything he had to say in there for sure. I think it would be really cool to see more mountainous areas in the game, to be able to scale up, see the snow start falling, of course. I think of Skyrim in this regard. When exploring Skyrim, it's absolutely breathtaking, and it seems like you can keep going and going and going, which of course isn't the case with Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, I do have the opinion that overall, I think they did a great job building this map and the city. That's my personal opinion. I just think that it needed to be fleshed out a bit more. The game needed more time in the oven. But anyway, let's keep going. Now, this is kind of funny right here. This is one of the most upvoted posts out on the subreddit. It goes on to say, the Cyberpunk by numbers. V has modified its appearance 0 times. Players have a modified appearance of their bodies 0 times right here. Again, it's poking fun that there isn't enough customization options. It's something that I hope that CD Projekt Red actually starts talking about, perhaps publicly, that they will be adding back in a lot of these features. You know, it was even mentioned on stream how people want to see garages, things like that, being able to go and change your hair and your character overall. You would expect this to be in the game at launch. But again, I really want to hear from CD Projekt Red thread in regards to this. Now, also, it seems like a lot of you want to be able to ride the subway. It says Cyberpunk by number. 0% of players have ridden on the subway. So it's kind of also poking fun of the fact that the official Cyberpunk Twitter, of course, has been busy posting a bunch of stats about how players are enjoying the game and things like that. So I think it's kind of funny how the community has gotten together and have posted their own statistics here. But yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, here's an example right here. I want to pull up an actual example. It says, since players were first unleashed on Night City streets, 13 billion people have been defeated by V. By comparison, the megalopolis has a population of 6.9 million. So yeah, you can see that this is what they're basing it off of, and they're kind of like, we want these type of features in the game. And I think they're having a little bit of fun with it as well. Now we have some more feedback here from the community. This one right here says absolutely nothing is aligned correctly on the attribute screen. And you can see if we go to the attribute screen how everything is kind of bouncing all over the place, which could make your OCD go off for sure. But yeah, it would be cool if they could patch some of the UI elements with the game and fix that, make it more streamlined. For sure. All right, so now it is time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video. You never know. So, my most recent video was called this one right here. It says Cyberpunk 2077. Wow, unexpected news. This is big for the recovery of the game. New updates. And if we scroll down, let's see how you guys reacted to this one. Of course, the news is that for the first time ever since launch on Steam, the player population is actually in the positives. Now, it's not much, it's 3%, but it's not in the negatives, which means the community isn't losing I guess you'd say members of the community or fans. It's actually growing. It's actually hitting in the green instead of the red. So that's actually a good sign for the game. Now that could mean that people are checking out mods. They're coming in and seeing what's up with the game. Perhaps the modding community is really lifting up this game and keeping its survivability up. And then of course you have on the side of PlayStation recently, Cyberpunk 2077, believe it or not, topped the sales for digital downloads for PlayStation. Now, a lot of you guys did actually comment on the fact that it could be that people are just re-downloading the game, and that could be an assessment, but it's interesting to note that the game is now back on PS, and I think that's really the heart of the information right there, is that people were willing to go in there, buy the game perhaps at a discount, and then try it out despite all the news about the game having issues. Now, Roger goes on to say this. He says, Scarface, The World Is Yours is also an underrated game. And I was talking about how The Godfather, in my opinion, is definitely an underrated open world game in the terms of how much stuff you can actually do in that open world. I'm still so impressed with The Godfather, and many games nowadays fell in comparison with the actual activities that you can actually do in the open world. Now, Jim Halbert says this: I love Cyberpunk, don't get me wrong, but there's not enough content in the game. The graphics are great, there's no interaction. They didn't give us what they promised. That's what I'm disappointed about. A lot of people agreeing with that one, and I hear you, man. Death by Touch says the map is fine for size, they just need to flesh it out with more events. I think assaults and organized crime respawning, more random encounters would be great. And it would be really cool to see like a mob type syndicate that you can begin kind of like taking over the city. That's something that I absolutely love, is actually seeing the results of, you know, going in and having these skirmishes in the city, that there's actually something tangible at the end of those skirmishes. Perhaps you actually got some real estate in your possession, or you're protecting a shop, or what have you. I always love those type of rewards. Now, Polydynamic says this. He says, I'm afraid people will get bored with the game before the DLC comes out, and that it will ultimately sabotage the incentive to create DLC. Yeah, that's another problem for sure. And then you also have to remember that they're going to have to contend with some next-gen releases coming up here, so time really isn't on their side, but perhaps people will be willing to come back. We'll see. Skiff says the following. He says, how about they actually add some physics into the game for a start? That would just be the first of many steps necessary to make the world feel more alive and interactive. I think it's actually something they're looking into from what Paolo Sasco said on stream, and of course he's the quest designer. It sounds like that's something that they are interested in adding into the game. We'll see what happens. But there you have it, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Cyberpunk 2077 news and updates. I have you guys covered, whether it's rumors, news, leaks. I really always like to try to seek out official sources on top of that for you guys, so stay tuned. And also stay tuned for more open world gaming goodness beyond Cyberpunk. Thank you for the love and support on the videos, and I will see you all next time. Take care.